You're welcome back to the pod. And surely I'll be reading your comments that you've sent to us on our social media platforms at Joy News on Facebook and at Joy News on TV on Twitter. But just before that, let's settle the story once and for all, try and get an understanding of what all of this controversy is about the decision by the Supreme Court on the matter of the voters register and what happens to those who registered with the NHIS cards. We know that sometime last week there was a ruling by the Supreme Court on this issue after Abu Ramadan, the former youth organizer of the PNC, went to court challenging the EC to delete those names because, in fact, he won an earlier ruling which indicated that people who register with NHIS cards cannot be able to vote in an election. Let's speak to a former Attorney General of the Republic of Ghana, Nia Ikwe-Otu. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Otu. Thanks for joining us. Hello, good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Thanks for joining us here on the program. I'm sure you've heard both parties on this matter, Mr. Abu Ramadan of the PNC and also from the Electoral Commission and their statement. Do you see the contradiction, or we are all misinterpreting the decision by the Supreme Court?
Well, thank you. I do not think that there is any serious issues for interpretation. You see, we have to put the matter into perspective. Look at when the controversy started with the Abu Ramadan himself going to court for the first time. I don't know whether it's 2014 or 2015, and then going again for the second time. It is there that we distill the issues. And having looked at it broadly, the orders made by the Supreme Court then will become clear. Now, Abu Ramadan was of the opinion that those who registered with the NHIS cards were not able to prove sufficiently that they were Ghanaians. The Supreme Court agreed with him. In the second suit, he's saying that in view of that, the register itself appears not to be credible. So, if need be, let us go and have a clean register all over. Supreme Court says no. CI 72, under which those people registered, was then legal and lawful at the time. So we cannot disenfranchise them. But we have held that they were not able, by just choosing the NHIS card, to prove that they were Ghanaians. So these are our own orders. One, delete or clean the register by ensuring that whoever's name appears on that register is indeed doing so in accordance with the Constitution and the laws for registration in Ghana. Two, should you delete anybody's name, you should still give them the opportunity so they can re-register. You find that the major issue was those who used the NHIS in registering. That was why Abu Ramadan went to court the first time. And then the second time, you are being told delete or clean up. Why should we have a problem when it comes to cleaning or deleting the names of those who use the NHIS in registry? I don't see the problem there.
Okay, but again, sorry, Mr. Ikwe-Otu, we've heard from the Electoral Commission. They've made the point that the decision to delete these names of individuals who registered with the NHIS cards, they do not have the legal legs to stand on in taking that decision.
You think they should be looking into the eyes of the Supreme Court and be telling them what they are telling them? Can't they presume or credit the Supreme Court with the knowledge of the law that they have read all that before they made the order and deliberately used the word delete or clean up? You think they didn't know that there are other means of doing that? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand you, Mr. Ikwe-Otu, but now we're looking at a situation where Mr. Abu Ramadan says that he's heading to court to cite the 7 commissioners for contempt and also to push for this decision to be done. Are we going around in circles here, or this ought to be done?
No, I support him. The Supreme Court has made a direct order. Look at the constitutional provision that after making declarations, the Supreme Court must go ahead and make direct orders in order to ensure that their decisions are respected. Okay? And if the Supreme Court has said that to you, that delete or clean up, and you are now telling us that the Supreme Court has no power to do that. Let me read the Constitution. Article 2.2, which they use. The Supreme Court shall, for the purposes of a declaration, under clause 1 of this article, make such orders and give such directions as it may consider appropriate for giving effect or enabling effect to be given to the declaration so made. So having made a declaration, they have gone ahead and made specific orders to enable you give effect to the declarations they have made. You are saying that you can't do it. That is a direct disobedience of the Supreme Court. And I think Ramadan is right. If it has to go cite them for contempt.
But also, if you look at some of the commentary we've seen, Mr. Aikweotu, they say that looking at the kind of time we have, even if, granted, the EC goes ahead to delete these names, how will that registration exercise be done such that only those whose names have been deleted will have that chance to re-register? Looking at the time we have left for the elections.
Is that a way? Is that the best way to tell them that they have time constraints? If an order is given to you and you cannot, for any reason, comply with the order, is it not proper or prudent on your part to go back to the Supreme Court and tell them the difficulties you have? And remember, in the course of the trial, we were told that they were asked whether they know how the people registered, and they said there's something called Form 1A, and that with that Form 1A, they can trace the people. Were they not those who gave the Supreme Court that impression that they can, using 1A, get to know the people and to delete? Why are they now singing a different tune?
So in your view, the EC should go ahead and implement what was detailed in the Supreme Court's ruling?
If they don't want to be cited for contempt, if they don't want to be seen as toying with the Supreme Court, they should just go ahead. Because I do not just see the problem. I mean, can you ask those who are dead, for example, to come back and re-register? Can you ask them? So it doesn't make sense to you that it is only those who registered with the NHIS cards, and perhaps because it was a law and it was lawful so to do, the people use those identification. But now they are being told that, unfortunately, the identification they used was wrong. And then let me also explain to you that I do not see the problem about this so-called, what is it, retroactivity. I do not see it at all. This constitution shall be the supreme law of Ghana, and any other law found to be inconsistent with any provision of this constitution shall, to the extent of the inconsistency, be void. And 2.1 says a person who alleges that A, an enactment or anything containing or done under the authority of that or any other enactment, or B, any act or omission of any person is inconsistent with or is in contravention of a provision of this Constitution, may bring an action in the Supreme Court for a declaration to that effect. Look at B very carefully. The act or omission of that person should have taken place before you can go to the court to tell the court that what the person has done is inconsistent with or is in contravention of the provisions of this act. So if the thing has not happened, you cannot go. So you should wait for something to happen for you to go and tell the Supreme Court that what has happened is inconsistent, that the Supreme Court now declares it null and void. And that is the end of the matter. Why should we be saying that it has taken place or what? So what? It is after the thing has taken place that you can complain by saying that any act or omission of any person is inconsistent. There should have been an act, there should have been an omission before you can get it against the Constitution and say that it is inconsistent. So if the thing has not happened, you don't go there. If you wait for the thing to happen, get it or measure it against the Constitution and now say that it is inconsistent or in contravention of the Constitution. Once the order has been made that it is wrong, it is wrong.
But Mr. Aikweotu, what's the worst that could happen if the EC decides not to go ahead with what the Supreme Court has asked them to do?
I'm saying they should be cited for contempt.
So if that
Hello?
happens, then what? Then the names will automatically be deleted?
No, when you cite somebody for contempt, you are asking for two things. That the person be sent to jail until he decides to comply with the order. So when they decide to comply with the order, then they come out. If they are not prepared to comply with the order and time is, we are running late, then obviously a new EC commission should have to be put in place to run the elections for us. We can't wait for them. And they can sit in prison and rot.
Will that be something that will be feasible to do now, sir?
Sorry.
With the possibility you speak of that if they are to be cited for contempt and sent to jail, then someone else will have to come and do the job. Is that feasible? Can that happen in this country?
What are you saying? We think we should sit in this country for them to hold us to ransom? If they say they will not work, we'll find other people to work. Should we sit down for them? The president has 4 years. It is ending very soon. So they should create a constant crisis for us and say they won't do it, and we all look on. We are Ghanaians. Come on. We use our senses and move on and do that which is reasonable.
Okay, Mr. Ayikotu, thank you so much for speaking to us this afternoon. Former Attorney General Ni Ayikotu sharing his thoughts on this issue. He says that in the view, from his legal experience, this matter is simple. The Electoral Commission should go ahead and implement what is in the Supreme Court's ruling without interpretation. We'll see what happens, especially for Abu Ramadan, who says he's citing all the 7 commissioners for contempt. He will head to court and ensure that this court order or the ruling is implemented to the latter. Right then, that's for that issue and the clarity that we were looking for this afternoon. We also know that in the Ashanti region, there is an easy calm at Aboabo number 2 in Kumasi following clashes between 2 youth groups yesterday. The youth groups are believed to be part of the Tijaniya and the Al-Sunnah Muslim groups. At least 2 people were injured from machete attacks and windscreens of 2 vehicles were also smashed in the course of the violence. Joy News has gathered that the clash started as a result of an insult followers of the 2 groups traded on Facebook. We can get more from our correspondent Erastus Asaridonko with our sister station Love FM in Kumasi. Erastus, it's been some 24 hours since we saw these clashes in the area. What's happening now? Are things better?
Well, things are better. Normal activities are ongoing. But then the concern still is the clash yesterday raises concerns about what has been going on the ground, religious intolerance. They are within the same religion, but then they hold different views concerning what the Quran says and its interpretation. One side, which is the Al-Sunnah, believes their teachings are godly, they are holy, they are interpreting the Quran better. They see the other ones as minorities, and so sometimes the preaching that go on within the community itself, you know that some go out with mobile vans and they preach to the people within the community. Some are in the mosque and they preach, the various imams and the clerics. And their messages sometimes are insulting according to the residents, and so it infuriates the Tijanians who also believe they are also part of the Muslim community. And so that is the underlying undertone that we have within the community, and that's still as if it is still waiting for a trigger, like what happened yesterday on Facebook, which triggered the clash, and then people will start going about fighting each other again.
It's a very difficult situation to look at, Erastus, especially for this area and how this whole clash started on Facebook. So for those who are handling the security situation in the area, what are they doing beyond boots on the ground?
Well, if you had the original chief imam, Sheikh, today, what he is saying is that he had written to the Regional Security Council and served all the regional security heads with this indicating, recommending that indeed they should ban all such Muslim public preaching from now through the elections and after the elections, and until they see fit to repeat the floodgates. And why he is saying that is that he has done his investigations, he has received reports and complaints about the insults or the negative tendencies that these seek to bring. And so he's asking them to ban public preaching, but that has not been carried out. And so this time around, he's using the class yesterday to tell the security agencies to do their job. So it tells you that much has not been done per the expectations of the Muslim leadership in the region itself. And so this time around, they want the security agencies to take some of these things more seriously. I have been speaking with Malam Anas, who everybody points accusing fingers at and say that his style of preaching and the way he preaches sends insult and language into the community, which is also raising tension. But when we spoke to him, he said, well, he sees nothing wrong with his teachings. He's going according to the Quran. He's interpreting it as he deems it, and he will continue preaching as he's preaching. But the original chief imam says, no, that is the wrong way to go.
That sounds like a pulse that we need to really, really look at in the next couple of days, considering the directive that's being given by the chief imam and the reaction you're getting on the ground from the people and the man who's been preaching, the cleric saying that he will not stop this action. But Erastus, finally, for the men who suffered as a result of this back and forth and the tensions, those who got injured, how are they doing now?
Well, I must say they have been discharged. They are in good spirits now, and they are going about their normal duties. One was sporting a bandaged arm this morning. The other was discharged this morning. He had a cut to the forehead, and he's complaining of some head injuries. But then they are responding to treatment. All
right. Thank you, Erastus, for those details from Aboabo in the Ashanti region. Very, very sad story coming in after the clashes. And the cleric whose comment has generated all of this clashes is saying that he will not stop with his preaching, even though the regional chief imam is asking that all kinds of Islamic preaching be banned in the area until after the 2016 elections. Now, shortly, I'll read some of your comments on social media, but we'll go for a break now and bring you sports. I've seen a lot of you send us your comments on Facebook and on Twitter as well. I'll go through them, and when we come back after sports, I'll read these comments and share your thoughts with the rest of the world. You're watching The Pulse here on the Joy News channel on Multi TV. We are back after this break.